Hello friends, thank you for joining me for today's video. I am making this a lot earlier than intended, but I've got a bunch of plans for December. I really want the merry vibes and none of these quite fit, so I know I'm not going to get to them before the end of the year. These are also obviously not all of the books that I'd like to get to in 2026, but these are the ones that I'm going to try and prioritize. Starting off, I've got 11 books in my late to the party pile, and up first we've got Red Rising. I think this is a sci-fi. I'm honestly amazed nothing about this has been spoiled for me. I don't even have a vague idea of the plot, but I know it's a trilogy and I've only ever heard good things about it. Up next, Deal with the Elf King. Pretty sure this is a fantasy romance. And I think the female lead is human, but the male lead is the Elf King. This one was really popular on TikTok for a while, but I didn't read it while it was sort of circulating because I was worried it wouldn't live up to the hype and then people might skewer me for saying so. But enough time has passed that I finally feel safe to read this. Next, The Selection. This is a Regency YA beauty competition thing, I think. Maybe to win over the prince. I think there's a prince in it. I have no idea what these are about, if I'm being completely honest. That's gonna be a running theme here. These were really popular at one point and I just never read them. They weren't my time or my era, and now I feel like I missed out. And adjacent to that, Shatter Me. I feel like at its time, this sensationalized the YA dystopian romance genre, and I hear Aaron Warner is one of the original book boyfriends. Again, I know nothing about the plot, and I'm only shocked that it hasn't been spoiled for me yet. Up next, Throne of Glass. I read the first 3 books back when the 4th one hadn't even been published yet, so like a long time ago, and I told myself the cliffhangers were too much. I couldn't bear to wait year after year for book after book. I was just gonna wait until the entire series was out. That way I could binge the whole thing as fast as I wanted to, but the series has been completed for a while and I have never picked them up again. Mostly out of fear. Those books are huge and there are many of them, but we're jumping over that hurdle in 2026. I'ma do it. Lord of the Flies. A bunch of boys get stuck on an island. Another classic on this list. I never had to read this for school, and every day I have felt like it has only hindered me. I feel like I'm constantly hearing this book be used as a comp title for other books and movies, and because I've never read the original, The Lord of the Flies, I don't fully understand those comparisons, and I'm starting to feel left out. So we're biting the bullet. Daisy Jones and the Six. I think this is a book about a band getting together and then breaking up, but I've heard it's been told in an interview sort of style, which sounds pretty interesting. And Taylor Jenkins Reid gets plenty of praise in general, so I definitely want to read a book of hers in this next year. I just figured this is one of her most popular, so I'll go with this one. Anything by Emily Henry. Any single book by Emily Henry. I'm not usually one for contemporary romances, but I feel like Emily Henry has been so popular for so long that it's time that I just give her a try. Maybe there's something there that I'm missing out on. If you've read Emily Henry before and you have a favorite or a least favorite, please feel free to let me know in the comments. I'm shooting in the dark over here. Pucking Around. I believe this is a smutty reverse harem sports romance. And that's all I need to know. The Secret History. Everyone and their mother knows about this book. I've heard it's dense and somewhat pretentious, so I've been avoiding it, but I'm gonna commit to it. At the very least, I'm gonna commit to it so I know what the hell everyone's talking about, because everyone talks about this. I think this is following a group of college students up until something big happens, and then we sort of watch them descend into madness. Sounds interesting. However, I have heard this be compared to Babel by R.F. Kuang, and I did not like Babel, so I'm a little worried. Speaking of Babel by R.F. Kuang, I would like to read Yellowface, if only to give R.F. Kuang a second chance. I really didn't like Babel, but that might be a me thing. That could be my fault entirely. So maybe Babel was just too advanced for me, and I have not heard good things about Catabasis, her newest release. Otherwise I would try that one, but I have only ever heard phenomenal things about Yellowface. I think this is about an Asian writer who dies, and then her white writer friend who was jealous of her steals one of her manuscripts and publishes it as her own, but in a vague way so people don't know she's white. And then eventually when that comes to light and becomes problematic and she has to face the consequences of that decision, things don't exactly go the way they should. Next are 4 books on my physical TBR. I would like to get through at least 1 physical TBR book a month, but I know for sure at the bare minimum I can commit to these 4. First is A Little Life. You know what this book is already, okay? I don't need to explain this one to you. It's sad, it's long, it's tragic, and it's in my stack of physical TBR books, and I would like it out of it. So I'm gonna read this one. Next is Anna Karenina, I think is how you pronounce it. It's 800 pages. It's also a classic, and it has a pretty cover. We Burned So Bright by TJ Klune. Technically, this isn't in my physical TBR yet because it has not been released. For anyone who's new to my channel, TJ Klune is one of my all-time favorite authors, so anytime he announces a new project, I immediately pre-order it. This one I don't think comes out until April of 2026, and from what I remember, it's about an older queer couple who make one last cross-country road trip before the end of the world. Next, The Wind in the Wild by Emily McCosh. I am so excited to get to this one. This author actually has a YouTube channel where she posts writing updates a couple times a month. I've been watching her for years. I'm obsessed with her mind, I'm obsessed with her process. And last year I read an anthology by her, All the Woods She Watches Over, I think is the title, and immediately fell in love with her writing. So she ran Kickstarters for special editions of her new standalone romantasy, which is The Wind in the Wild, and I snatched that shit so quick. I think much like The Bones Beneath My Skin, this is a book that I've been saving for a rainy day because I know I'm gonna love it. So I'm excited for when that rainy day comes. And next, one of my favorite things to do is to go see movies of book to film adaptations and then read the books. And lucky for me, there are a bunch of book to film adaptations coming up this next year. First on my list is The Color Purple. Technically, this isn't a new adaptation. The newest one came out, I think, in 2023. Maybe 2024, but it's one of my absolute favorite musicals. I love it so much. It is heartbreaking and beautiful. It makes me cry every time. So I've really been wanting to read like the original source material, the book, and I'm just curious to see how the book compares. Next, Project Hail Mary. All I know about this is it takes place in space and it has Ryan Gosling in the movie. I know this author also wrote The Martian. I never read the book, but I think I watched and liked the movie with Matt Damon. So I have high hopes for this one. Next is The Odyssey. I've been avoiding reading this and the Iliad because I'm worried I'm too stupid for it. Although the musical epic is one of my favorite musicals, I've listened to it 1,000 times and it follows the story of Odysseus as told in The Odyssey. So I think going into this, I will at least have like a bare bones understanding of where we're supposed to be going in the plot. And hopefully that'll keep me afloat and give me the push that I need to finally read this. Also, I think the film adaptation has Tom Holland and Matt Damon in it. Yes. Sunrise on the Reaping. I liked the original Hunger Games movie when I was younger, and I finally read the trilogy for the first time, I think last year. I never got around to reading The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes or watching the movie because I just don't really care about snow, but I do care about Haymitch. So when I heard that his book came out, I was ready to eat it up, but I knew, of course, that they were going to make a film adaptation. So I've been waiting it out, and finally it's supposed to come, I think, in fall of 2026, so I'll still be waiting a while, but I am so excited. East of Eden, I know nothing about this book, and I think I'd like to go in blind. And this one I might try to read before the movie. I'm still undecided on that. I read another book by John Steinbeck, Grapes of Wrath, and that is one of my least favorite books of all time, but I'd like to give him a second chance, and a lot of people seem to like this book in particular, so this is the second chance I've chosen. These last 6 are sort of just miscellaneous. First is The Rape of Non-King. I've just heard really interesting things about this, not just about the content material, but also about the author and her struggles in trying to get the information in order to make this book. And I was never much of a history person in school, so I'm really just sort of ignorant to what happened back then. This one is mostly just for curiosity's sake. Bound to the Shadow Prince. This is a fantasy romance. I assume from the title that the male lead will have shadow powers. hot. This is also written by Ruby Dixon, who wrote the Ice Planet Barbarian series, which I think I got 9 books into, and I surprisingly enjoyed those. House of Salt and Sorrow, I was told this is a gothic retelling of The 12 Dancing Princesses, which is one of my favorite fairy tales in general and also my favorite Barbie movie. Never heard a bad thing about this one. The Artist's Way, I think this is sort of a self-help book, but for creative people or people who are looking to pursue creative passions. I know Doechii read it early on in her career, back when she was like still making YouTube videos before she, you know, blew up. And a couple other people I admire creatively but can't remember the name of right this second have also said that they read this and it helped them a lot to figure out what their process is and to help keep them motivated and stuff. So this is just one that I would like to give a go. Winterkeep. This is, I'm pretty sure, the 4th book in a fantasy romance series by Kristen Cashore. I think it's the 4th one. I read the other 3 and loved them, so I'm pretty sure I'm gonna love this one. Again, just one that I've been keeping tucked away for a rainy day, and I'm finally gonna get around to reading that this year. And last but not least, A Pocket of Lies. Much like Emily McCosh, this is an indie published author that I have been following for years. I've been following her on TikTok specifically from like the week after she published this book, A Pocket of Lies, which was her debut. Since I started following her, this trilogy has been completed with a novella, and I think also she's published 1, maybe 2 books in a brand new fantasy series, and that book looks really good. But because this book, A Pocket of Lies, is how I know her, how I found her, the point from which I've been following her from, it just feels right to start with this one. And we've reached the end. Those are all of the books I want to read in 2026. Well, not all of them, but those are the ones I'm going to be giving a high priority in 2026. If there are any books you're prioritizing in 2026, I would love to know. And don't forget to recommend me any Emily Henry books if you've given her a try. I would love to know your thoughts. And I thank you so much for watching till the end of this video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!